Okay. 6:15. Looks like we're waiting on a few other folks. Looks like, oh, do we have everybody? Okay. With that, hi everybody. It's the second meeting of the month of January. Our every other city council meeting. It's January 21st, 2021. If just a little bit of housekeeping, if you're calling in and you're an attendee, I don't see anybody. It looks like everybody's logging in online, but if anybody does call in, the *9 is what you need to press in order to raise your hand so we can acknowledge you so you can speak. With that, Steve, please take roll.
Hello, Mayor Godes.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cobb.
Here.
Councilor Davis.
Here.
Councilor Willman.
Here.
Councilor Stepp. Councilor Hershey.
Present.
Councilor Wisso.
Not present. She's at her birthday party.
Yes, Councilor Ingrid Wusso is her husband's birthday is this evening, so she said she would join us a little bit late this evening.
Sounds good. You've got a quorum, Mayor.
Okay. Please, everybody, join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Agenda changes and conflicts. Does anybody have anything on the agenda that we need to pull? Yes, Charlie, or conflicts?
I have item number 14. I have a conflict on it. I represent a neighboring property owner.
Okay. So I'll just ask Charlie to jump off the call at that point. Paula, go ahead.
I have a conflict with number 13, the Middle Colorado Watershed Council presentation, so I'll step off at that time.
Okay. Conflicts or changes? Okay. Tonight we'll be doing public comment, a little bit different. Mayor Pro Tem Kopp will be taking over and doing that. I'd like to read a quick statement because I think some folks are here to comment maybe on that. So I just wanted to have a quick conversation real quick. I've prepared this statement, so if it sounds a little rehearsed, it's probably because it is. You know, a week ago, I came across a number of pictures on the internet that showed Congresswoman Boebert in front of a group of a dozen supporters from a rally at the Colorado State Capitol 1 year ago as she launched her campaign for Congress. These pictures depicted a number of her supporters flashing a hand sign that the media outlets and commenters on social media interpreted as the sign for white power. This picture was reported in large media outlets such as Kyle Clark of 9 News' Twitter feed, which has 120,000 followers, the Colorado Sun, and other publications and private social media feeds. According to the reporting from the Colorado Times Recorder at the time, this rally included groups such as the 3 Percenters and Proud Boys. The Proud Boys are a designated hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. The Anti-Defamation League states the 3 Percenters have a, quote, track record of criminal activity ranging from weapons violations to terrorist plots and attacks. 9 News has called them an extremist militia group. There is currently a change.org petition that calls on Congress to investigate Representative Boebert's ties to the white nationalist groups, which to date has garnered over 5,200 signatories. As an elected official in a community that is represented by the Congresswoman, I felt that it was important to make a clear distinction that these people and these hand signs do not represent the citizens of Glenwood Springs. These are not my friends and neighbors. That we should expect our elected officials to associate with people that are not demonstrating hand signs that signify either white power, as the picture was mostly attributed to by other sources, or whether the hand signs represented anti-government militia members flashing their affiliations as a member of the 3 Percenters. I reposted the widely shared pictures on my mayor's Facebook page with the following statement at that time. Quote, as my mother often told me growing up, you are judged by the company you keep. fair or unfair. The people in this pictures are flashing white power signs. As the insurrectionists were amassing outside the Capitol, the Congresswoman referred to them as, quote, her constituents in her floor speech. These are not the people I know who live in Western Slope, Garfield County, or Glenwood Springs. Please, Congresswoman, for the sake of your actual constituents, keep better company. To be clear, this is a picture that had been circulating in the public domain for over a year. I did not create it, I did not alter it, and I was not responsible for it going viral, as my Facebook page has a few hundred followers, and the post was up for 12 hours. As soon as I saw that my post had generated significant attention, and after seeing additional profane and threatening comments pour in, I deleted my account entirely. I contacted our local police and reported one of the death threats directly for their investigation, as the safety of my family comes before all else. Page 2. It is with this context, I would like take this opportunity for potentially misidentifying the hand signals that the 4 members of this group were flashing and issue an apology. I'm sorry. While I did not know at the time that the 3%ers were, as soon as I became aware, I took affirmative steps to mitigate the misunderstanding. First, by adjusting the content, then removing the entire page from the public sphere. Additionally, I contacted one of the members that had identified themselves in the picture to seek clarification and to apologize further for the confusion my post might have caused. I attempted several times to contact another commenter who identified themselves, but they refused to take my call. I also want to be clear that I never identified these people in the photo directly. I did not call anybody a white supremacist at any time. I never replied to any of the comments directed at me. I did not say that anyone in this group was at the US Capitol for the insurrection on January 6th. I do commend white supremacy in all forms. I do condemn the attack on the Capitol on January 6th that left 5 people dead. I condemn Representative Boebert for her tweets and rhetoric that might have inspired the insurrection. And I condemn all anti-government militia groups she's affiliated with, including the 3%ers, Proud Boys, and Oath Keepers. We can do better than this as a country. I am proud that the citizens of Glenwood Springs did not join in with the commenters on that Facebook post and contribute to the advancement of those ideas. That is my statement. Thank you for allowing me the time to read that. Mayor Pro Tem Kaup, I will now turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Godis. And at this time, it's time for our public comment period. So if we have anyone in public comment, I don't know if I can control it from here. Let's see.
Shelley, I have given you co-host ability if you'd like to use it. Otherwise, I can help out.
And Madam,
Okay.
I see Ms. has raised her hand and you've put her in.
Yes, I do see that, Ms. Bishop. So you do have talking permitted.
Thank you so much.
You have the floor. I believe you have 3 minutes. And I would like, if you could hold on one moment, please. I would just like to make a statement on our public comment. Typically, in any of our public comment periods before our council meetings, each member of the public has 3 minutes to speak. I will try to give you a warning if you're getting near the end of your time, but you will be asked to finish up at 3 minutes. And please realize that no one on council or staff typically will respond to public comment. If a response is warranted or anything like that, usually staff will get on that at a later meeting since it's something that's not on the agenda. And we're only taking comments right now for public comment period on things that are not on tonight's agenda. Okay, Ms. Bishop, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. And Mayor Godis, thank you so much for acknowledging a very grave mistake that you made. I do want to just clarify for the public and for those who have been affected by your lack of discretion and really just poor judgment. The original post that you made actually said in the second paragraph, the people in this picture are flashing white power signs. You immediately connected them to trigger words like white supremacists and Nazis and terrorists when you did that, Mayor. And I believe you understand that. The one that you just read was your revised one. They're time-stamped, so we know which one came first. Unfortunately for you in that commentary that you gave. You also implied that the picture was of something that had just happened, because you go on to say right away, as the insurrectionists were amassing outside the Capitol, the Congresswoman referred to them as her constituents in her floor speech. You have drawn all kinds of parallels falsely. You have without discretion, without really considering what your role is as the mayor of Glenwood Springs. You've put people in harm's way. This went viral after your post, sir. It didn't start with Kyle at 9 News. It started with you and your indiscretion because of your dislike or your hatred or whatever it is for the Congresswoman. And she represents the 3rd Congressional District, which is 29 counties, not just Garfield County. I guess I'm very concerned because there seems to be a pattern here of misjudgment, misspeaking when it comes to constituents, when it comes to your peers on the city council, the comments you make on your social media about tearing people apart. It just seems to be a pattern of unhinged behavior, in my opinion, that is not becoming of a mayor of Glenwood Springs or anywhere else. I appreciate the apology, although you have qualified your apology by saying you don't really need an apology. Or to apologize because you believe that Lauren incited insurrection. There's no evidence of that. It's categorically false, and yet you're continuing to advocate this narrative, which tells me you're not that sorry. So again, I'm disappointed to see this pattern continuously happening with you. Elections have consequences, and there will be one for you very soon. Thank you, guys. Thank you for allowing me the comment time.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, we need to have people identify where they're from. We don't need specific addresses, but a town.
You
and a
are
state,
correct.
please.
Yes, I apologize for that.
No problem. I will leave that at Garfield County. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, do we have anyone else from the public that wishes to comment this evening? Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back for council comment, and I will also turn the meeting back over to Mayor Godus.
All right. Thanks, Shelley. You did a great job. Okay, council comments. Does anybody have any comments? Sounds like I see 3 hands up. Councilor Hershey, Willman, and Stepp. Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Charlie Willman can tell you that I have the patience of a gnat. But when you serve the public, we have to show respect for each other's time and for the public's time. And my father was a judge, and he always used to say, when you're winning, shut up. And that's how I try to conduct myself here, and not to say superfluous things or ask 32 questions and make 52 comments if they're not necessary. And this comment really isn't directed to Steve Davis particularly, or Ingrid, who's not here, but others on this council who seem to want to talk to hear themselves talk. And that's fine. And if you have some legitimate questions, that's great. I think a lot of these questions can be answered before. But I'm going to ask Mr. Willman in his code of conduct that I know he's working on to perhaps include, just like tonight, during this comment that I'm making right now, I think it should be limited to 3 minutes, just like Ms. Bishop was limited to 3 minutes. And then consider maybe a 3 or a 5 minute limit for each issue. And that would be your time to ask questions, get the answers to those questions, and then make any comments you want to make. You know, there are people who have things on the agenda and they're number 22, and it's a little easier with WebEx, but they have families and kids and they have real jobs and they have to get up in the morning. And you know, if we could all work to respect each other's time. And again, I'm just as guilty of this as you, all 6 of you now, or 5 of you who are here, that I don't have time. But I really wanted to hear what Steve had to say about water rates, and I didn't get to hear it because we were out of time and it's time for a dinner break, and people get to go again and ask 32 more questions, and it's not fair. So I'm just going to ask Mr. Willman to consider putting that in the code of conduct so that we can discuss that at the next time. And I think I'm under 3 minutes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. I would support a conversation around that in the context of the code of conduct. And I can also do a better job. So if you will kindly remind me when everybody's had their first go. If you could put your hand up, that helps remind me to come and hit everybody and then get everybody for a second one. I do need some help sometimes juggling the balls. So,
But I'm not the mayor, and I don't know that that's my job, but if that's in the code of conduct, anything I can do to help. You know, we're not lawyers here representing private clients, and we don't get paid by the word. So everyone can just maybe keep it a little briefer unless it's necessary. Some issues are obviously more complex. Thank you.
thanks, Tony. Charlie, what say you?
Oh, a couple of issues. One, I wasn't intending to talk about this, but I'll respond. First of all, the code of conduct doesn't address this issue. The rules of procedure that I presented would address this issue. And it does talk about 3 minutes, but exceptions can be made to that. And then everybody else gets a chance to talk. And then if the mayor determines additional 3 minutes can be granted, that's in the rules of procedure. The code of conduct was something Carl and I were working on. Carl sent it to me around Thanksgiving. And it got lost. So I apologize for not getting that back sooner. I have provided Carl my comments on his draft. So I'm hoping that'll be back before the council in the near future. As far as what Mr. Hershey indicated about the time that I consume, my job is to be, as a leader of this community, is to ask appropriate questions and to make appropriate comments so people understand my position. I rarely get outside of 3 minutes for that. I certainly did earlier today because the water rate issue is something I've spent a lot of time working on, and I felt it's important to state my position. With that, I only have one other comment. I noticed in the, we got a P&Z approval of storage containers for a business. I really would like us to direct the P&Z to look at storage containers. I don't want to see storage containers all over the town, and that be an exception to building buildings. And maybe there's a cost benefit analysis, but I would ask that we as a council direct P&Z to look at, is that appropriate use and where it should be. I don't want to see them everywhere. So that's all I have tonight.
Thanks, Charlie. Paula.
Just a couple things. One is I had a citizen of Glenwood who missed an electric bill and got a notice after that. And I just wanted to share some of her comments. She totally accepted the responsibility of having missed it, but she was concerned that there was not a Spanish translation of that bill, number one. And there is a note on there that find a friend who speaks Spanish, English, if you don't, to get help with this. But I think that all of our efforts lately that we're making for, our outreach to the Hispanic community and, others along that line, that we should address that in that electric billing and provide a translated on the back or something I'd like to consider. And then also she mentioned, she's thought that maybe an automatic payment system on electric bills, and maybe we can do that in the new system, Steve. That's another point that I was going to bring up. And then the other one, there's nothing on this notice that of the missed payment and potential disconnection saying if you're having trouble right now because of COVID or other reasons. And she was not saying that she had that problem, but she was concerned some of the community might. And there should be something noted on there where they can go if there is trouble with their finances right now and taking care of their bills. So I thought those were all three good suggestions. So I wanted to share those. And Deborah, if you could consider taking a look at that, that'd be great. Or Steve. And then the other thing I had, similar kind of thing. So I'm just going to throw both of them out there. I got an email, and maybe others of you did as well, about use of the porta potties around town as opposed to our toilet, our bathrooms that have been blocked off. And just, I think that if we can't do it now because of COVID, if we can get some kind of timeline of potentially when people will have access to those public restrooms instead of using porta potties, that'd be great. I myself also would rather be in a bathroom than a porta potty. It's easier to wash your hands for 20 seconds, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I know, again, we're dealing with COVID stuff, but if we had a timeline or some kind of PR about what could happen, that'd be great.
Go ahead, Deborah.
If I may, I think a lot of those bathrooms that you got a complaint on, they can't be winterized. And that is why some of them are not open. I think we wrote an explanation up and I think I failed to send it to council. So I will send it to council. But Brian did go through and send me an update to send out to you guys. I apologize.
Great, thank you.
Counselor Davis.
Steve Boyd could comment on this. I just want to follow up on Paula's conversation about water and electric bills. The city does have an auto pay in place. I have been on their auto pay for years now, and I get a bill in the mail, but it always comes directly out of my account without me writing a check. So that's available to everybody.
Thank you. I'll share that with them.
Thanks, Steve. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none. We will. Where are we going to be here? Sorry. I was counting on having more people talking longer.
Consent calendar.
Is there a motion for to approve the consent agenda?
I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Tony, seconded by Shelley. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Hands. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Okay, next on the regular agenda, the South Midland progress update. Who is jumping in on that?
That should be Terry, but while you pull her over, I will just remind council, this is something we're hoping to do every month just to keep you and the public updated on how South Midland is going, because it is the largest project we have done since the wastewater treatment plant, and it's a pretty big deal for us. And with that, I think Kathleen is actually going to talk.
Yeah, the floor is to Kathleen. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. I do have a presentation this evening. I'm going to hit the share screen if that's okay. Can everyone see my screen up this evening? Okay, great. Well, hello, Council. Kathleen Bonatovich, your Contract Public Information Manager for this Keep South Midland Moving project. And man, we've had great weather for construction, although there's some of the skiers out there would hope for more snow, but we've got perfect condition right now for winter construction. So tonight I want to just briefly go over kind of high level phase 1 construction activities. And that is right now until through July. So sort of big picture. Right now we're working on rockfall mitigation, soil nail walls specifically, with anchors, cable, and mesh being installed, and kind of the scaling work associated with that. Shotcrete those walls, and then utility work is happening, subgrade prep for the road, temp asphalt on South Midland and some of those areas, and then Hager Lane wall and backfill. And then we'll start to begin the roundabout construction, which is really going to be ongoing in this phase, but we're doing a lot of prep work as well. Project team meetings are once a week, and usually last about an hour and a half or so, an hour to hour and a half, where we all get a chance to get a real detailed schedule. But I guess the news I have for tonight is that the hotline has been quite quiet. We've gotten a couple calls from people who are actually new to the area who are saying, "Hey, we just bought real estate here. What's this project all about?" And so I think, no news right now in terms of the public hotline is sort of good news. We've kicked the project off with, a lot of information to let people know this is happening. So construction work right now is really focused on the rockfall work. And so I have some pictures to show you this evening. There's a big crane that's been on South Midland delivering materials and doing work in the area there. This is the soil nail wall, which is a part of a process to work on the stabilization for this wall. And then at Old Cardiff Bridge area, there's some deep utility work that's happening in this area as well. Our lane closures are really are going okay. They've been active There is a 1-lane closure, really expect a 1-lane closure throughout the project, but traffic seems to right now, fingers crossed, getting into a rhythm. So the wait times are between 4 to 5 minutes right now. And we just want to send a big shout out to everyone in South Glenwood. Thank you for your safe, calm, and patience for all the motorists in the area. Our next CCC meeting, again, that's our community communications meeting, will be February 2nd. And feel free to join us if you'd like to, but that's an opportunity for us to dive deep into some of these project schedule with the people who are very close to the project. Again, we have the notify me notices that are going out, and then our project phone, which you can always call or text. And we plan to send a couple additional social updates out this week or next week that really speak to the Rockfall work and the improvements that are being made in this area. I'll just quickly remind you that Black Hills Energy does have a project going on at the same time. So when we can, we do try to mesh those lane closures to make one, but we're doing different work. So Black Hills is doing their work and we're doing our work. So, we work together to try to make it as efficient as possible. I will report out that all the tree removal is done in the area. So we spoke at our last council meeting about getting kicked off with the trees, and that part of the project is complete. So very quick update tonight. Please let me know if you have any specific questions. Really happy to be part of the team, and we are in motion. I'll just leave it on this slide here, the construction activities that are happening. Any questions this evening?
Kathleen, would you mind stopping or not sharing your screen? I'm having trouble bringing up the participants and everybody. I don't know, maybe it's me. There we go. Thank you. Any comments, questions? No? Okay. Normally we don't turn it over to the public for comments on this, but I do want to see if anybody from the public, this is a big project that's getting underway. I'll just open it very quickly if the public has any questions or comments on this. Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Kathleen. I think sorry, go ahead.
We'll be back next month with more imagery and updates and the construction schedule.
I appreciate it. I think, these updates are quick, precise, comprehensive, and that's evidenced by the fact that we have no questions. Please pass on, and I don't know how much of it is the current crews or source gas, please pass on the flaggers, the traffic control are doing an excellent job. It's not just my opinion. Other people have actually grabbed me and said how good the traffic control is and timely. So thank you.
I do have one more thing. Unrelated to this project, there is a 27th Street Bridge closure, I believe, tomorrow evening, throughout the evening, and there should be notifications going out, right? Unrelated to the project, but I thought I would just give it a little plug while we've got everybody here.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for that update.
Have a great night.
Thank you very much. You too.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Terry. Item number 11, spring cleanup options and discussions for 2021. Who is presenting this? Are we presenting this? Okay, oh, I see a hand up. There we go. I'm going to promote Matt here. That should be online. There you are.
And I'm back. Ms. Uten might join in on this conversation along the line. We've kind of pushed this one off a few times. It's a spring cleanup 2021. What I'd like to kind of start out with conversation wise is we're kind of in the same boat as we were last year. The pandemic is going on. The vaccine is not readily available to us. And we're trying to keep the crews as separated as possible with all their work duties right now. so that they're not commingling in cars as little as possible, and they're not actually working in groups that are close together. And spring cleanup is kind of the counter of all of that. We take the entire SWAT crew and streets crew and shove them together for basically 5 weeks and let them run around town picking up people's stuff and interacting with people. So, I don't see spring cleanup happening as it normally would this year. If you guys want it to happen at all or in a different format, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. But I just kind of want to get that on the table at this point, as I don't see an end to this as of yet. And I think we're going to probably kick it down the road a little bit if we were to do a full spring cleanup per this conversation. But going on from that, what we presented to council was kind of two options for spring cleanup this year, depending on what you guys would like to do. One would be what we basically did in 2019. We hired a couple extra trucks to help drive. We took some of the street crew members and actually let them do street crew things. It cost us a little bit more money than just using manpower, but it accomplished street items like filling potholes, doing the grass cutting, getting drainages back open again at the end of the year, because that transition from winter to spring is important for us to get out and clean gutters, clean inlets, and make sure everything's functioning for the summer. And spring cleanup has a tendency to kind of push that maintenance work out a little bit. So option really number one is exactly what we did in 2019. It was efficient. We had 5 weeks of time, basically only used 2 or 3 days out of the weeks to get to each zone. So we still had 2 or 3 days of kind of open time for streets guys. And if we were going to continue spring cleanup, that's the way we would probably want to do it, is the most efficient. Option number two, if you're ready, is kind of a different look on spring cleanup. And we had talked about this previously. Other communities do this also in kind of this fashion, but we would provide spring cleanup maybe over an entire weekend, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We would actually bring in large 40-yard containers and have a site staffed by either our departments, or we can hire this out, where people can bring metal, put it in the metal bin. They can bring debris, branches. Maybe the branches go to the rodeo ground. Trash itself comes and gets sorted out in containers. And we kind of bring it into, maybe it's Earth Day. We commingle it with Hazardous Waste Day that we do every single year also, to get rid of all those hazardous waste. The landfill puts that on. We were kind of thinking about maybe it's more of a community event versus just the street crews going to people's yards, basically, in their front curbs and picking things up. Make it more of a community event for people who can't come to the event. They don't have the ability to get out of the house. They need some truck ability to haul things. Maybe we could get the Rotary involved. We could get some community events people involved, and make it a volunteer weekend to go out, pre-schedule, just like we do with Hazardous Waste Day. People have to pre-schedule. Hey, let us know that you need something picked up, how much it is, and we'll get some volunteers to come over and pick that up and bring it back. To be honest with you, it'd be way more efficient than us driving from house to house to house and sorting through a pile, basically crew by crew, until the pile is gone. There's also the consideration that, when the census is done, we will be under an MS4 permit. And some of the things we find in piles are not things you want in drainage ways. So when it rains, those things have a tendency to leach down into our storm sewer systems, into our rivers too. Because people don't always abide by the rules and put what they're supposed to in the pile. So we have had occasions where we're a little concerned about what's actually ending up with in the storm sewer system. So I guess you guys have read, it's only 3 pages. You guys have read it. Kind of want to know what your thoughts are.
That's a great question. This is something we've been talking about. I think every year we talk about this at some level since I've been on council. So I would love to hear from, looks like we have Councilor Hershey, Steppen, Willman. Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you. I would recommend, and this is what I would support, is that we do what we did last year with the vouchers. I'm concerned about the pandemic. I'm always concerned about fixing potholes and fixing streets, and this takes our department away, and Matt's guys and girls away from a job that they need to do at that specific time. But I just don't think we're in a position where it's safe. And to encourage people to put garbage out, and to encourage people to come into this community to look through, which is a great idea, to find garbage and find, fun things to take off the street. I just think it's a bad idea. And to put our our crews in contact with each other and with residents, it just doesn't seem like a great idea this year. I'm happy to look again next spring. And I know this has been a long tradition in a lot of communities through the Roaring Fork Valley, some of which don't have it anymore. But I think just for this time being, you know, Strawberry Days has been canceled. I don't know where we're going to be in April or May with the pandemic and with vaccines. I would support just one more year of abatement, but I do like the idea of vouchers, which I used last year, and Charlie will let you borrow his truck. I know anybody who asks. So I'm kidding, but that would be my position. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Paula.
Yeah, I think that we're not really in the state, like Matt said, to be going around neighborhoods this spring. I do like the idea of a potential city event, and I think we talked about that a year or so ago, and I think it'd be great if we start organizing towards that. Again, COVID holds us in handcuffs and hostage. So if we do the event type of thing, I'd like to see it happen around November, as Matt suggested. I do know that the citizens like this. It is a great service we do. I know it costs money, so if we could find some way to offer an opportunity for people to do this, because not everybody can make it out to the landfill for just even sending brush out there and stuff. So it's a good thing. So thanks, Matt, and thanks for putting this together. And I hope we can move forward and do something at least maybe later this year or next year along an event thing.
Thanks, Paula. Charlie. Charlie, you're muted.
You're muted.
Everybody's allowed one a night.
Damn, my cursor doesn't go in the right place. So I'll start over. First of all, I agree generally with what Tony said about the vouchers. I think it probably makes more sense this year. However, the question I have for you, Matt, is if we did option 2 this year and we had these containers and let's say everything's out at the rodeo grounds, which would make sense. Is there a way we can do that would be, if we did it, let's say in June when things hopefully are going to be a little bit better, is there a way we can do it that you would feel safe with city staff being out there and or contractors being out there collecting this?
I don't think I would put an event like this together unless the health department said it was something that was okay to do, because you'll have a lot of congregating, a lot of closeness, even if in an outdoor situation. They've canceled Strawberry Days, which is in June, which means they're not comfortable with that. You know, I think that Paul is probably more correct. Maybe it's around recycling day in November if we were to do such an event. And by then we could have coordinated a location, because I hate to do it at the rodeo grounds. I'd like to do it more centralized. I don't know where that is yet. I'd like to do a little bidding, because I know there's a couple of waste companies that would like to have an opportunity to be the one that kind of runs this for us almost. I've talked to 2 of them, which is where I got the prices from for how much would it cost, how much volume did we bring to the landfill, blah, blah, blah. So that this is a fairly realistic number for you to look at for this type of event. I know Jen always has money for parties, so, you know, there's got to be some money there also. But, you know, I would not do this until the health department said, yes, you can congregate in a group of 200 or more, because that's probably what will happen over this 2 or 3 day period. So I would lean on them.
Thanks, Matt. So I guess my preference, I tend to agree with Tony. And Paul, I guess to some level, I'd like to see vouchers. A lot of people like to clean up their stuff in the spring. Waiting to November wouldn't allow them to get out there. So I think a voucher program this spring, and if we could hold maybe some, you know, the hazardous waste by November, hopefully we're in a more public forum by then, and maybe allow some other collection at the same time. But at least I think for the spring, we should put out vouchers so that people can, using my truck, except for Tony. No, I'm kidding. Tony could use it too. You know, I'd be happy. And the last year, I know I talked to Kiwanis, of which I'm a member, about helping people get things out there. So I could talk to them again about whether they'd be willing to do that. Again, we have to be careful of COVID issues, but thank you.
And just so council knows, we did hand out, I want to say 400 or 500 vouchers last year. Only 121 of them redeemed for a total bill of $2,008. So it was a quite popular program. A lot of them went out the door. I'd have to talk to Sarah about how many she actually shipped out, but it was quite a few because we sent them to entire subdivisions. But only 121 were used. But I still think that's pretty good. There were only like 56 used the year before. So
And just to comment, not to jump in place in line, but just comment on that. I know a number of people who went in with their neighbors and just used one voucher for a truck that was like 2 or 3 different neighbors. So I don't know that 121 is representative of households. I think that's probably double or maybe even triple the people that were actually served and redeemed. So that's just my experience. I don't know if that's a fact or not, but that's what I observed.
And that's a distinct possibility. And we tried not to be too tough on what the restrictions were on how full and those kinds of things. We knew it was a year, so we kind of let it go.
Sure. Counselor, Deborah, sorry, you have your hand up. Let's hear from you.
It feels a little late now, but going back to the summer idea, that I think staff will not get vaccinated, probably even public works staff, until the summer. So I don't think, just keep that in mind as we're thinking about events or spring cleanup. We'll be lucky if public works is vaccinated before the summertime.
Thank you for managing our expectations. Counselor Davis.
I agree, I think, with Tony that a voucher system is a good thing to do this year. As I recall, the vouchers last year were on a request basis. And I don't really know why we don't just send vouchers out with water bills to everybody. Like I get a postcard from the county every year that says I'm welcome to come to the county landfill with 1 truckload of stuff. It seems like that would be more appropriate. I don't know that you'd still get more than 121 people responding to that, but at least everybody would be a better PR program, I think, and everybody would understand the deal. I think if we are ever able to go back to curbside, I think we should only do it for tree limbs and yard trimmings. I would suggest that we consider doing that for curbside annually and continue forever sending out just a voucher so that people can actually haul garbage out of their garage to the landfill. But I think it's unreasonable to expect the city to pick up your garbage curbside. And the abuse that goes on there is absolutely incredible with TV sets and old motor oil and things like that. And it's just too hard for our street crews to police that. I think we should just continue that forever, and we should only pick up limbs and yard trimmings once a year curbside. And I think that would make it a lot easier and less expensive for the city to manage.
Thank you, Counselor Davis. Shelley.
I agree with what I've heard from Steve and Tony and I think Charlie. As far as the vouchers, I think that's a good way to go this year with COVID and everything. But I also think looking forward, it's true when the curbside thing, the spring cleanup is great. People love it. We've been doing it for years and years and years, but the city has grown now to the point where we need, when I see this lost crew time of 630 hours in the spring, we need those crews out there in the spring, painting and fixing up our trailheads and fixing potholes and keeping our infrastructure up and repairing it from the winter season and getting into spring. And I just think going forward, we've been talking about this for years, that it's not really sustainable to keep up this old tradition of this curbside pickup. And with the disruption of the pandemic now, we'll have had 2 to 3 years where we haven't had that old system. And I can't think of a better time than for us to create a new tradition for Glenwood Springs. And I would support, an Earth Day event where maybe we have a a drop-off site in North Glenwood and then a drop-off site more central. And we, work with vouchers and come up with a hybrid system where we're not asking our crews to go out and try to service a city of 10,000 with curbside, haul off pickup in the spring.
Thank you, Shelley. Ingrid.
So for those of that are listening to this meeting later on, earlier this evening, we had a work session where we heard from Parks and Rec, and they spoke to us about how much use our parks and trails are getting used. And so when I look at the amount of money that would go into something like this versus potentially putting that money and investing in something that has more longevity, I am very much inclined to do the latter and invest in these trails and just opportunities for us to enjoy our area. With that in mind, I definitely lean towards the voucher system. However, I'd like to add a request on the voucher that maybe we add like an email address that asks for some comments. It's a great and easy opportunity for people to send us. We can just say, if you have any suggestions on how to make it more effective or time of year or anything along those lines, and just add a little note at the bottom, which it probably comes across as slightly Pollyanna. Oh, let's get more feedback. I do have a tendency to always want feedback, but I think it's a pretty easy venue to ask for some.
So Matt, that's ingrid.wusso@cogs.us. You put that on each voucher.
And then I'll automatically forward it to Tony's email.
No, you don't have to.
And then Tony, his friend Jimmy Wusso, and say, hey, I got some stuff you need to pick up.
But thank you.
Thanks, Ingrid. It sounds like, I'm sorry, go ahead, Deborah.
I was going to say, I think I'm hearing, I don't know if we need a motion, but we probably would like one now, that leaning towards the party in the fall, if we can, where we have an event. It's an event, not a party. And vouchers, making them potentially, I think the county right now, it's downloadable, and we could ask them how to do that and see if we can get feedback, which we will share with all of you. You guys don't usually get all the feedback around spring cleanup, but we're happy to do that.
Tony Aronati, because we get a lot of it. I have one comment. I would like to echo everything everybody else said, but in addition, we have had a conversation in the past about a centralized collection. And to me, if we do something for hazardous waste, that's one thing, and then transport it, because we've done that in the past. I just don't see, I'm either for putting it back to curbside and going back to how we used to. I'm not actually, but I'm either for that or giving a voucher, because if you have to get a truck and load it up, whether you take it to a centralized trash collection or down to South Glenwood to the old rodeo grounds, if you're in West Glenwood, you're having to drive as far, if not farther, at least more time, to go to South Glenwood to drop something off for the staff to pick it up to then take it to the landfill. So I guess my suggestion would be, as we keep this conversation moving, if you're already going through the effort to put it into a pickup truck and take it somewhere, they probably can take it just a little bit farther down the road, and then they're not exposing our staff to, doing all of that extra work for the extra mile they're going to have to travel. So that would be my only other comment. Shelley, last words.
I was just going to make a motion that I move that for the 2021 season, we do a voucher for the spring cleanup, similar to last year, and possibly the hazardous waste cleanup day in the fall, if that can be scheduled. And then we revisit this for a plan for 2022.
I would second that, Mr. Mayor.
Shelley, does that include that the vouchers would be sent out with the utility bills rather than a request? Because I think that's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. I don't know if we can leave that up to staff to find the best way to get them out there, or it's up to you if you want it in the motion.
That's fine.
It sounds like we have a motion that does put that part of it into staff's discretion. So been moved by Shelley, seconded by Tony. Any opposed? Seeing and hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Yeah, that seems a little more efficient than how I have been doing it.
Well, that's
for-
a weird way to do it.
Well, it's more like the last 9 months of me doing it the other way, so I'm slow apparently. Next item number 12. This is the broadband budget and construction update.
If I don't can't see who's on the participation list here. Michael Gardner, if he's out there, we should bring him forward, and Dave Stockton. So I'm going to kick this conversation off. Two things going on here. One, we're going to give you an update on the budget. I'm going to discuss the change order here first, though. Michael and Dave Stockton, our consultant from Uptown, are going to go through the budget, which I think you'll be very pleased with. So first things first, though, the reason this is in front of you is that we made a decision last year to just get phases 2 through 5 done this year, so that we're done basically in 2021 with the fiber to home build out. We left a clause in the original contract or the original RFP when we went out to find a contractor to install all this cable for us, that said, hey, if we're happy with you and you're willing to keep your low price, that we would potentially just move forward with that contractor for phases 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. But we've asked Lightworks, who is our current contractor, who was a low bidder the first time significantly, to put a price to round 2 based on the original costs. And this is where we're at. Basically, we're asking for you to approve a change order for construction of phases. It says 1 through 5. It's really 2 through 5. We already have them under contract for 1. I apologize for that. It is a significant change order. It's about $2.5 million. We'll go over the budget here in a minute. You don't have to do any motions on this until you see the budget, but I think I said you'd be pleasantly surprised with where we're at with this conversation. But we are asking you to approve a change order for Lightworks to continue and finish out the construction of the broadband build out in 2021. That being said, I'd like to throw it over to Michael and Dave, who will probably take control of your screen. We kept the budget discussion simple. It's just a couple of slides, very easy to follow along with. So hopefully it'll be all inclusive and easy summary.
Good evening. I think I'm realistically just going to let Dave have at it. He is the subject matter expert here with all the numbers. So,
okay, thank you, Michael, and thanks, Matt, as well. So yeah, as Matt just mentioned, we just got a couple slides. Wanted to do a couple things. Wanted to update you on how we did in 2020 with actual spending versus what was in the business case, and then secondly, look through the forecast going through 2024. So just giving you an idea of where we think we're going to be at in terms of revenues, operating expense, use of the bond proceeds, et cetera. So let's start with 2020. So we've got that slide up now. So our actual numbers are here. Revenue, you can see we're a little bit under the forecast. Our feeling is that we did slow down a little bit of install activity due to the pandemic. But it's not a big miss in terms of the revenue numbers. So we're off by about $45,000 for the full year. In terms of operating expense and CapEx, we're well below that. So overall, we're in good shape. So operating expense, about 100,000 under. So in terms of operating income, we exceeded the plan by about 55,000 total. If we layer in CapEx on top of that, in terms of capital expenditures, we're also under there as well by about 387,000. So that CapEx probably is going to shift. We don't really see a total reduction in the project of CapEx, but it's probably going to move into outer years, including this year. Bond payments did start this year, so we are in an interest-only mode for the first 3 years. That payment was just under $80,000. So we kind of add all that up in terms of the use of cash for the year in 2020. We came in at about a little over 1.7 million versus a plan of just under 2.2. So in terms of overall performance, about 443,000 positive to the plan with the year. And of course, that was due to underspending on both OpEx and CapEx. Looking forward and going through 2024, so here we've got the same metrics, but just seeing what will happen over time. So obviously, we feel like we're close to launching. We'll be moving into friendly user trials and then expecting to launch commercially very soon here. And so that will be reflected in the revenue forecast. So in the plan, we expect to jump almost double revenue up to about 1.1 million and then grow from there as we add on all these new end users. Correspondingly, there will be a jump in OpEx as well, looking to go up to about 1.4 million. And total operating income in 2021, about negative 250,000. And that's expected in the plan. CapEx will go up substantially, and that's part of the change order here, but we need to do a lot of construction this year relative to the last mile build out. And so that's going to jump to a little bit over 4 million, and then we'll decrease as we go forward. So the bulk of the construction is anticipated to happen this year. And then bond payments will continue to go up. We'll be in interest only mode until we hit 2023, and then principal will kick in as well. So the upshot of all this, a couple of key metrics that I'll point out is we'll go positive in terms of the plan with operating income in 2022. As you can see, we go to 387,000. And then in terms of operating income, less CapEx and debt service, we expect to go positive there in year 5, which would be 2024. So that's that row that's second from the bottom where we hit that $92,000 positive number. So we see the plan holding together. We've been updating the pro forma for actuals. So as we have entered into new vendor contracts, which there was a fair amount of activity in 2020 with that, we've been updating. And a lot of those costs have come in positive to what we had originally planned in the feasibility study. So the business case is holding up very well. In terms of the bond use of proceeds, we do have $9 million total proceeds. We did expend some of that this year with construction. So we're at about a 7.2 balance on the bond. And you can see that in the plan, we will take it down to about 1.5 million. And then we think that the operating cash flows will be funding. And we don't see a need at this time to go below that 1.5 million balance on the bond. So overall, looking pretty positive.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
That was pretty quick. I want to see if anybody has questions.
Sorry, it's hard when people share the screen. I can't see the other folks on it, but it looks like Charlie does. Go ahead, Charlie.
Muted.
You already lost your one time for the evening.
I'm just not used to this one. All right, so in 2024, as I understand it, we're going to start increasing our cash. Is that going to allow us to, and can we begin repaying the debt at a higher level if we choose to do that? So we can start paying off some of this debt?
I mean, we would have, if we can stay with this plan, we would have the proceeds to do that. You know, I'd maybe defer to Steve Boyd on, you know, that question.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that real quick, Charlie. We did negotiate into that bond issue that we had, the ability to prepay that debt without a penalty or anything. So if we find that we don't think that we're going to need those proceeds, it is absolutely an option for us to go ahead and pay off early.
And I know we need to maintain some reserves, but I thought that I remember we could prepay. So thank you. That's all I have.
Shelley.
Can we please get a copy of those slides? They were it was kind of hard for me to see it up on the screen. I don't have a huge screen here. Thanks.
I would agree with that. Steve Boyd, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to take a quick second and express our appreciation to Dave and his partner Neil at Uptown. Council doesn't necessarily see this, but the financial model that Dave has built is what we're running this project off of. We summarize it in Munis, but the project itself is run with his financial model, and he's been a big asset to the city. It's a very, very detailed model, and I feel very confident with the results that come out of that model, and I think council should feel confident about that as well. So Dave, thank you very much for all your help.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Steve, any update when you get the fiber into your house?
I am doing everything I can to use the leverage that I've got with everybody involved in the project to get fiber into my house. Absolutely.
In the next couple months, right?
Within the next couple weeks, if I can pull it off, Mayor.
I guarantee you they don't care, Steve. They don't care.
That does seem to be the situation, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, how's that working for you?
I want it so badly for you. I really do.
Right. You have been very supportive of
Thank
me.
you. That was helpful on the budget.
Yeah. Charlie, go ahead. Unmute.
Yeah, to move things along. Thank you. I think I figured it out finally. To move things along, I would move to approve the change order with Lightworks Fiber and Consulting LLC. Approve change order number 1, increasing the contract by $2,574,163.32 for a new contract price of $3,060,000 to complete phases 2 and 5 in 2021.
I'll second that.
Moved by Charlie and seconded by Paula. Let's do roll on this.
Okay. Councilor Godez,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Willman,
Yes.
Stepp,
Yes.
Hershey,
No.
Wisso.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation, guys. Thank you, Michael, Dave, Doug, Matt, everybody else. I feel like it's an acceptance speech. But thank you very much for all you're doing. It's going along great. And I know this is one of those things the citizens are really going to appreciate. All right. Next item number 13, Middle Colorado Watershed Council presentation. You know, Paul, it's just a presentation. So I know you have a conflict, but I don't believe anybody's asking for anything. So if you want to just hang out and hear the presentation, I don't think that presents any conflict, at least as far as I can see. But if you want, I'll also text you when it's done if you feel more comfortable stepping off. Okay. All right. Who is presenting this evening that I need to promote? I see a hand up.
Yeah, it is Doug Winter.
Okay,
I believe, no, is that right?
His hand was up, so he's
Yes,
getting.
Doug Winter.
It looks like Mike as well. Oh, hold on.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. So I have a presentation to share as well. I'm not sure if I should share my screen or if you guys pull that up on your side.
No, if you could share your screen, that'd be helpful. Don't worry, I don't know how to do it either. There you go.
Let's walk through this and make it bigger. All right. I'm Doug Winter. Thanks for having me on tonight. I'm going to just run through some of the stuff that we've been doing recently and talk especially about the work that we're doing in relation to the Grizzly Creek fire, which I think has been top of mind for everybody recently, or one of the things top of mind. So the main thing that we have been working on that we just wrapped up, I would say, is the water management plan. We have a contractor, Lori Rink, who's been working on this for the past couple of years, and it's a very integrated process. That's why they call it an integrated water management plan. But to that tune, I mean, dozens of meetings, scores of stakeholders, a lot of time spent putting this together with the soil conservation districts as partners, and really a lot of people from ag and recreation and water quality and riparian habitat and all that stuff providing input. The product of this is a report, actually something that I can send you a link to, or you can view as a PDF that's got a ton of different alternatives, different projects that we can do to basically improve the water in the river and the associated habitat. This is focused on Garfield County in particular. The Middle Colorado Watershed overlaps almost perfectly with Garfield County, but there are a handful of these projects that are really specific to Glenwood, which I've highlighted here. So we've got a recreation map. I think that National Geographic has a river map that ends in West Glenwood, if I recall correctly. And we're working on a river map that includes a lot of the downstream reaches, which are increasingly popular these days. I like to float there myself. There's a recreational and channel diversion. I'm not super familiar with that, other than I know that it allows for basically a certain flow of water whose beneficial use is recreation. And then flow management partnerships, basically to coordinate, as I understand it, coordinate water releases, again, for the benefit of river uses in Glenwood. And that actually ties into the fire response as well, which I'll touch on in a second. So the integrated water management plan, we initially had this set of alternatives that were kind of focused on some of the areas that I mentioned just a second ago. And then came, August 2020, and we have this fire really close to where a lot of us live, and, in the watershed, within the middle Colorado watershed. And we realized that we needed to add an alternative for fire response, which we did right away before kind of wrapping up this draft final version. And I put the text on the screen. I'm not sure if everyone can read that, but basically it acknowledges that there are a lot of entities involved with fire response kind of by nature. And the city of Glenwood certainly has priorities. The Forest Service has priorities. And the downstream aquatic and water users, some of the municipalities downstream also have concerns with fire. So recognizing that this is we need to take a holistic approach, we added this alternative and have started working toward that. Myself and Paula and some others have been attending meetings and working with some of the other groups who are involved in the Grizzly Creek fire response, basically since late August of last year. And that includes some meetings that the city has put on. I mean, I was listening to the call last night, which I guess is the River Commission call. And, to that tune, I think that it was mentioned that there's a group that the city helped to stand up pretty much right after the fire who's concerned with the water impacts within the city of Glenwood. And we've talked a little bit about that. We're certainly interested in working together with that group. And I think we even talked about helping to sponsor that group and coordinate meetings. So we're directly involved in that way. We've been talking to Roaring Fork Outdoor Volunteers, to Jacob Baker in particular, who's been leading the Glenwood Canyon Restoration Alliance. So and we're going to help them with some of those projects, and we're hoping that they can help with some of our efforts. So we've started this process, and we're trying to figure out exactly where Middle Colorado Watershed Council fits into the picture. And I think the reason that I'm here tonight is to express our interest in continuing to coordinate some of the fire responses that are important to this area, but aren't necessarily the things that you guys have been applying for emergency watershed protection funds for, like the water intakes, the filters, the pipelines, the Roaring Fork intake, all that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do as a watershed council that's going to be beneficial, that may be related to the stuff that is happening for the city of Glenwood. And so we've been applying to grants. We've actually applied to, I think, 3 grants now that have some element of fire response, both directly related to this IWMP Alternative 6 that I'm showing on the screen, but also through some of the non-point source protection program funds available, because fires impact kind of non-point source water quality. So as we get going with projects, hopefully in the near future, and as we continue to apply for grants, we're hoping for support from the city of Glenwood through basically letters of support, which as I understand, are important for getting grants. I'm not the most familiar with the process, but that's essentially why we're here tonight, to give you an update and ask for your support in upcoming projects. And I should say continued support, because we've been working with the city of Glenwood for a while.
All right. Doug, if you could quit sharing your screen, it helps me see the folks a little bit.
Oh, sorry, I had 2 more slides here too. Another thing we're working on is the river stop at the rifle rest area. That's kind of ancillary. And this is my official support request slide, where we've got somebody casting.
Doug, could you go back to that slide at the rest stop real quick?
Oh, this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that at the rifle rest area?
Yeah, that's actually, I was really involved in this for the last year or so, up until July when we finished the construction. And Colorado Parks and Wildlife has a staffer who's here 40 hours a week running programming for rifle area residents, which is really cool.
Thank you.
Sure. And I would love for any of you guys to come by when we open to the public. We unfortunately didn't open because it's a rest area and because of COVID. It's kind of we decided to take a conservative approach to opening this year. But we're hoping to open soon, and we're hoping that everybody stops by because it's really cool.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
All right. Doug, thank you very much. Questions or comments for Doug? Pretty good presentation. Go ahead, Shelley.
I just had a quick question. Thank you for the presentation, Doug. I'm wondering can you let us know a little bit about which grants you're going for? And
yeah,
it'd just be helpful to know for us giving letters of support.
Sure. So I think my understanding, because I'm not actually the person who has submitted these grants, but we submitted 2 to the Colorado Water Conservation Board to a water plan grant, which is for the integrated water management plan specifically, I think, because the integrated water management plan is either mandated or something from the Colorado Water Plan from a few years back. And so each watershed is supposed to come up with their IWMP. And so we did ours. And I think the other one, there was another CWCB grant. I forget the name of it. I think it was more related to the fire restoration, but it's again under that IWMP header. And then the one we just recently applied to is a non-point source grant through the state as well. And then, so I think that we need to provide, I think that for some of these, we can still provide letters of support, like they kind of gather the grant packet and you can submit additional information if you want. So my understanding is that we could still use a letter on behalf of the city if you're willing for one of those grants. And then also as we apply to do other things in the future, specifically like for the firework, I think that we're basically all trying to come up with like the specific project work that would require additional letters of support. And my understanding is that we're still looking at projects and funding mechanisms.
Deborah.
My idea with this, just so you guys know what I was thinking, was with grant work, sometimes you have to move really quickly and it can be hard to get on the agenda, or we'll miss the grant if we wait for the agenda. Was like, if you generally agreed with what they were trying to do, is to give us a little bit of flexibility with, the mayor being able to sign it if they're truly going after a grant, which they will be, that helps all of our watersheds. It's a really broad community good for us all along the lower Colorado River and further to have clean water.
And I can provide that the integrated water management plan, which has like a cut sheet of each of the, I have one pulled up if you want me to share it, but I could just send you the thing so you can see all of them. We've got cut sheets for each of the alternatives, and you can kind of see the things that we're interested in, which we would pursue basically as we have like staff and volunteer capacity, kind of in order of urgency. And that's why the fire is, the big thing right now. And as opportunities come up, basically. But I can send you that so you understand kind of the framework of the projects that came out of that.
I think that'd be great if we could get that, Doug. You can just send that to Deborah and she can disseminate that to us. Okay. Charlie, do I see your hand because you have a motion to approve the authority, or do you see? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask Deborah, do you actually need a motion, or do you just want a consensus of council that we support this and we give you the discretion to have the mayor sign letters?
I think I could be okay with that. I always like a nice motion though.
I would move to authorize Deborah and Deborah as our city manager and the mayor to sign appropriate supportive grants that would help in our watershed areas as it is in the middle Colorado Watershed Council. Thank you.
Well,
Oh, go ahead, Jonathan.
because I'm the one being authorized, I'd rather have you second that, actually.
Okay, I assume, Charlie, I heard you to say letters of support, right? Yeah, so I'll second that.
All right, been moved by Charlie, seconded by Shelley. Is there anybody who does not want to authorize me with staff to be able to endorse letters of support for the Colorado Middle Watershed grant applications? Hearing none, I will assume that passes unanimously. Speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay. All right. Hey, Doug, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for all the good work you guys do. You have an amazing executive director on board.
Yes, we do.
Thank you, Doug, so much.
Okay, thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
All right. Next item, would somebody, Deborah, would you mind texting Paula and letting her know that we're back on? Thanks. Next item is item number 14, fee waiver agreement for affordable housing.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to pop off on this one.
Absolutely.
Alyssa or Mr. Mayor?
Oh, yep. Sorry. Thank you.
Could we move?
I see. Okay. So I have, hi, welcome back, Paula and Hannah. Anybody else need to be promoted?
I think Rhonda Wainwright as well.
I see her. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We all ready to go?
You know, for some reason, I'm not being allowed to promote Rhonda. Promote.
There she is.
You mean now?
Yes.
There she is.
Okay. Oh, I'm looking at the panelists. Okay, great. Yeah, go ahead. Who's ever leading us off?
Great. I believe that's me. Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you. Nice to see you all again. So before you, we have a fee waiver agreement for a affordable housing proposed project. So in the staff report, this project is proposed in the West Glenwood area. It's a 54 unit development, and 43 of those units are proposed for affordable housing units. And you can see broken out into specific AMI categories, and I can go into that in a little bit more detail. So 43 units that would be deed restricted at affordable housing rates, and then 11 units at a market rate. The reason why the applicant is also here today, that they're proposing this fee waiver is they are applying to the Colorado Housing Finance Authority for rental housing tax credits, and a fee waiver shows city support for the project, as well as financial aspects. The applicant is also working with the Garfield County Housing Authority, getting vouchers for the project, which will help support the lowest area median income threshold level. They have 6 units proposed at 30% AMI. I also have all of the 2020 AMI thresholds if council would like to see those and what they are, to get an idea of what these rents will be at. This is a rental product, if I didn't mention that before. And, you know, looking at the regional housing study, you can compare the thresholds that they're coming in at 30% AMI, 50% AMI, and 60% AMI. Those all fall within the highest need category that we saw come out of that regional housing study. We had roughly about a 2,000 unit shortfall in Glenwood, and half of those were in the 60% AMI and below. So what is before you is a agreement for fee waivers, and the included system improvement fees in this waiver request include parkland fees, fire fees, school fees, and water fees. The reason why sewer is not on that list is because they are served by West Glenwood Sanitation. So that is the gist of the agreement here. And Mike and Jeff and Rhonda, who we've been working with on this agreement, they have a presentation which they included, is included in your packet, that shows their work in the Valley. They have a project that was completed in Basalt, so they can speak to that if you have questions for their local work, as well as their plans for this particular project in West Glenwood. And I think with that, I will open it up to questions, or if you need to see some documents, I can share my screen.
Counselor Davis has a question for you, Hannah. Steve, did you have a question?
Hi, Hannah, welcome back. Can you not hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, give me a chance to ask the question. We of course have a deed restricted program in place. I'm very familiar with that because I've built like almost a dozen of those. Is this different than what our current deed restricted program is?
This would be different, yes. Our deed restriction program we have on the books is a voluntary deed restriction program for limits up to averaged 100% AMI. So this project, and that would, as we've had many discussions, and 100% AMI is a little bit more workforce housing or attainable housing. So that project waives fees, all of the same fees that I just mentioned, for rental product coming in at 100% AMI. This project that is seeking low-income housing tax credits through CHAFA is coming in significantly lower area median income levels. So they would not be participating in the voluntary program. So it wouldn't have those same requirements for reporting and the exact specifics that that program has. It looks like Carl would like to speak up there.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that it will, this locks them in because of the tax credit program. This locks them in. They can't buy their way out like we can underneath the voluntary program if you decide to. So that's, so the waivers are all very similar. Like you said, they're all the things that we waive underneath our voluntary program, but it does sort of guarantee that piece if they're successful in getting the program in place. It guarantees it for the period of time that it's financed for.
So that follow up on my question. It also includes, and you didn't say that, but it also includes, that I heard anyway, the water tap fee, not the sewer tap, but the water tap fee. And then there's no requirement that the residents of that actually work in Glenwood. They could work anywhere. And that's probably additionally the difference in our programming.
That's correct. It's because it is a federal program, and so and the flow through on the CHAFA credits, so that they have to, you can't limit who can apply to live in the housing underneath the federal rules.
Gotcha.
So it's a little bit of a different trade-off.
But other than that, very similar.
Yeah, very similar. Just locking in and definitely at a lower median income, which is a segment of the market that we're having a hard time hitting right now.
Yeah, thank you.
And my apologies, Steve. I did mean to mention that the program that they're going through with CHAFA is a 40-year affordability timeline. So that also differs from our voluntary program, which is 30 years, for clarity.
Yeah, I saw that difference show up on your report there. Thank you. In fact, I thought it was a mistake when I saw the 40 years.
Thanks, Steve. Ingrid.
I'm curious, I know that you guys mentioned that sewer will be serviced by West Glenwood Sanitation. With that in mind, did you ask them for any fee waivers for the project? And if so, what has their response been?
I'm going to direct that question actually to the applicant because they have been chasing that down.
We have been in touch with them about expected tap fees, and we're waiting to get an estimate from them, but we have not requested a waiver from them.
Okay.
As of this time.
And then initially, obviously, people need to qualify for the correct AMI threshold. How often do they need to re-qualify? Is it on an annual basis, or how does that work?
Yeah, so through our compliance period, there's it's a recertify annually.
Okay. And how will it be marketed? Will it be marketed just to the general public, or are there certain sectors? Just kind of, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's a good question. This will be open up to whoever is able to qualify, and so this is actually, it'll be a mixed income development, like Hannah said. So we'll have 11 market rate units, obviously open to the general population, and then anyone else that fits the parameters of the 30%, 50%, and 60% AMI units will be able to apply and potentially live at the property.
Okay. And then this kind of might be me micromanaging, just asking questions about kind of how you plan to execute the project. But when Six Flags or Six Canyons finished, I noticed that it was a large enough project that they did them in like kind of phases. And I'm curious, will you phase in? And if so, which will you do, the market rate ones first, or how does that work?
No, this will just be one phase, and we'll complete it all at once.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you for answering those questions.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ingrid. Shall I go ahead?
Mayor, if I can jump in, I misspoke when Councilor Davis asked the question if it was the same as the voluntary program. The other one is we did, as staff, did not recommend that there be a waiver on water system improvement fees because the need in that fund is so great that we just talked about earlier. Underneath the voluntary program, that is one of the categories that is waived. So that's a difference that we didn't feel like we could, in good faith, recommend a waiver of that one at this particular moment with the water fund. So sorry about that.
Thank you for watching out for us on that. That's something that we probably might not have caught. So thank you. I'll say that on behalf of myself anyway, no one else. Shelley, were you up?
Yes, I was. I had a couple of questions, and I did see that on the water. So thanks for speaking to that, Carl. That was one of my questions, as it had been mentioned. So it looks like total we're at about 8,100 per unit. That's kind of a fee waiver by the city. I was curious on that, since we waive parkland and school, and it does look like the project location is in a good spot. There's great access to transit. There's access to the middle school and into a few of the bike trails and things like that there along 6. So I think it's a good location for this project, and we certainly need the housing. So thank you for bringing this forward. I'm wondering, as far as if you have any plan as far as parkland or play structures or anything like that on site. And maybe that's part of, Hannah mentioned that you might have somewhat of a presentation. I did see your slides in the packet. I don't know if you have anything additional or.
The slides that were in the packet is what we planned on presenting.
Okay.
And as far as like parkland on site, unfortunately, we are on a pretty tight site, we really don't have the space to accommodate like a playground or kind of park areas with sports courts. Some of our other properties outside of the Roaring Fork Valley, we almost always do that when we have the land available for it. We will have, a community area, which will have, obviously a leasing office, kind of an activities room. We'll have a room that's can be dedicated towards Zoom meetings, given kind of the virtual environment we're living in now. We will have a bike room, which is extremely popular at our Roaring Fork Apartments project in Basalt. It's consistently at capacity. And in addition to that, we'll have extra bike parking kind of above and beyond what is required. And then aside from that, we'll also have a pet
Okay.
But to answer your question, no, we won't have a park area at the property.
So no playground equipment or anything, or a little plaything. Okay. What about as far as building codes, or specifically energy code? Do you guys build to a certain level of construction? Do you go for Energy Star or anything like that? Or what do you do in that area? Because I know that keeps costs down also, is by keeping the utility costs lower, and it kind of speaks to a level of construction. So I'm just curious what your level is there.
I know we do build typically towards the silver rating at the international code. Jeff or Rhonda, I'll maybe defer to you guys on speaking to that.
As part of our application, we will be committing to CHAFA to build to the silver level.
Is that silver lead or?
It's NGBS, so it's similar, but it is definitely a higher energy efficiency than just standard building code.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's all I have. I don't know if anyone else on council is interested in seeing the presentation, but I would be, just for the benefit of the public, but I don't know, on time constraints, I'll leave that up to others.
Is there an opinion of council to see that this evening? I see Councilor Davis has a slight opinion that maybe we could see that in our packets and ask questions later. Is that correct? Is that what I'm getting from your motion? Okay.
I'm going to be the one who dissents then, because I think that in this situation, sometimes those who are watching our council meetings, it's the presentation, it's their first opportunity in my ward to see what this project is, and they don't have easy access to the presentation. So if you could do maybe a condensed version of the presentation, we would appreciate it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, we would be happy to.
And we are on time, are we not, Jonathan?
We are.
Okay. Okay.
Let's I think we have enough interest. Let's do a quick run through if you might, Mike.
Okay, I'll share my screen and then I will let Rhonda introduce us. Thank you.
And I will be quick. I'm Rhonda Waybright. I'm the president and owner of the Real America Companies. There are 4 operating companies within Real America. We have a development, design, construction, and property management group of companies. So we're fully integrated, or in other words, I'm a little bit of a control enthusiast. I like to know that the apartments are running well, and then we also maintain ownership of everything we build. We've been around for 25 years. We are located in Indianapolis, but we have developments, one development in Colorado. I've been a part-time resident for 16 years, have come to love the Valley, and obviously there's a huge need for affordable housing, which is my passion and what I've done for 25 years. So we were able to build Roaring Fork in basalt. And like Mike said, we have ski lockers and bike room and dog washing stations and those things, and some things that the residents really enjoy. And we have been looking for the past several years in the Valley to add another property to our portfolio because the need is so overwhelming. And I don't know if you've ever been to Roaring Fork. We would welcome you to come with your masks for a socially distanced tour. We'd be happy to show you around. But we were able to find a development there of a hotel foundation that had essentially been stopped during the 2008 crisis, financial crisis. And we were able to design something to accommodate 56 units of affordable housing there in Basalt. So what we're speaking to now is 54 units, walk-up style apartments called Mountain View Flats in Glenwood Springs. And as we mentioned before, CHAFA and the Colorado Housing Finance Authority, the tax credit program is extremely competitive, and they look at the state, and we are hoping to make application February 1st for a very competitive round. And the best foot forward that we can possibly show the state as to why Glenwood Springs in the Valley is deserving of affordable housing credits is what we're hoping to deliver to them. So Mike, do you want to go ahead and explain more about the location?
Sure, yeah, so just to be brief too, so this is an aerial of where our site is. We are very excited about this location. We, as Rhonda said, we've been looking for the past 3 or so years for a site up and down the valley. We've looked at least 6 different locations within Glenwood Springs. We've been working closely with Hannah and Jen, and they've been great to work with. So we finally got this site. We went under contract on it in October, I believe, or maybe September. And it's just north of Discount Tire in West Glenwood Springs. We love the location because it's within 400 feet of one rapid stop, and it's within 700 feet to another. So it's a true transit-oriented development. Also close to many bike trails, paths, parks, and a number of job centers. Having the Glenwood Mall directly west of us, and then south of us across the river. Obviously, a lot of retail and service industry jobs there at that center. And we're within 3 miles to Valley View Hospital, Walmart, many other employers where we feel our demographic could potentially be working at. Just another aerial of the site. This is the view from Highway 6. One other thing that is very attractive is the relatively flat nature of this site. A lot of the other sites that we looked at would require pretty significant excavation costs and site work, making affordable housing not entirely financially feasible. Also, a lot of the other sites that we looked at, whether it was some of the hotels or some of the other sites that were available on the market, were just at much higher price points than typically we see for an affordable housing development. So we're really excited about this one. We could go on and on about it. This kind of how we came up with the name is this would be the view from every apartment at the property. So we actually designed the building in a way that all 54 units will have a south-facing view with a balcony or a patio. And this is what they'll be looking at, hence the name Mountain View Flats. The unit mix is here. We touched on it earlier, and actually since we sent this to Jen last week, we revised it slightly, actually making it a little bit more affordable. So now we actually have 14 units at 50% AMI. We have 6 units at 30% AMI, which, as Hannah mentioned, are our lowest units in terms of income and rental rates, and those will be dedicated towards the housing vouchers from Garfield County. Just to give you an idea, rents for 30% units will be as low as $400 up to $475, $500 for a 2-bedroom. For the 50% units, you're looking at like $720 for 1-bedrooms and up to $850 for 2 bedrooms, or $854. The 60% units, which we'll have 23 of now instead of 29, will be $879 for 1-bedrooms and $1,044 for 2 bedrooms. And then we'll have 11 market rate units. Just kind of going over the market need briefly. Hannah touched on the Roaring Fork Regional Housing Study earlier. Additionally, we got back our market study, which we contracted, and out of the out of 474 affordable housing units currently in the market in the site primary market area, they're at 100% occupancy. The current wait list is 403, which includes our property, Roaring Fork Apartments in Basalt, which has a current wait list of 214 households, which is obviously speaks to the demand in the area. Additionally, out of the property survey in the market study, there's 687 market rate units in Glenwood Springs, and there's currently 6 vacant units. So 99.1% occupancy. And those rates are at much higher price points than what we are proposing here. Just to speak to the demand a little bit further. Here's a summary of our request, the fees that we've outlined, which I think you all have seen. And that about does it for our presentation. Hopefully that was brief enough, but we appreciate you allowing us the opportunity to present and speak about our project. We're really excited about it.
All right. Thank you for that. That was helpful. Go ahead, Ingrid.
Oh, I actually think Paula. It was Paula, and then I would like to speak, but Paula was first.
Okay. Sorry, I just saw you unmute yourself. So go ahead, Paul.
That's great. Wow, that's a fantastic project. And I'm with Shelley on the Housing Commission, and we've been looking for opportunities to find affordable housing for the area. So it's exciting to see what you guys are doing. I wish we could have seen a plan of the layout, because one of my questions kind of goes to square footage in these units. And I know the cost of construction right now is very high in this area. And I just wondered if you had to sacrifice space for the apartment size. How do you accommodate, if you did have to do that or not have to do that? Is, you'd mentioned the storage area in the Roaring Fork apartments. Is there that for your future renters? So if you could just address that a little bit on what's available in these units as far as size and space, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah. Each unit will have a storage area, and then as it relates to the common areas, we will have, I didn't mention this earlier, but we will have ski lockers in the bike room, similar to what you saw at Roaring Fork. Within the apartments, we just have the 1 and 2 bedroom floor plans. And Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the 1 bedrooms will be
700 square feet. The 2 bedrooms are 774 square feet.
Okay.
And if I could jump in there, Paula, you're not actually approving this project tonight whatsoever. You're approving just the agreement to do the fee waivers if they're successful through the CHAFA process. From a land use and planning standpoint, it still has to go through the entire process, and the agreement, you'll note, calls out that nothing you do here tonight affects your ability to review and approve or deny that project when it comes to you as a land use application. So we specifically didn't include a lot of that information tonight because the full-blown process going through the public process and the Planning Commission is yet to come.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it. That's great. I was just curious mostly about the cost of construction and how you could possibly do this. And thank you so much. This is going to be great. And I hope we can help you make it happen.
Thank you. We really appreciate that.
Go ahead, Ingrid.
This is more of a question maybe even for staff, and that is, if for this stage in the process, is it required to have any community meetings or feedback, or is that, like Carl just mentioned, when we're a little bit further down?
That will be a little bit further down when they actually submit an application. At this level, it will require that neighborhood meeting to occur prior to them submitting a full application with community development.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
All right. Is there any other comments or questions? Okay. I think we're looking for a, do we need to open this up for public? You know what, we will open this up for public comment because this is a substantial ask of us. So is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on these fee waivers requests? Nope. Okay. We'll bring it back for a motion or further conversation. Shelley.
I would like to make a motion. If I can find my packet. I'll just comment. I think this type of housing is so needed in Glenwood Springs, and I thank you for bringing the project forward. I hope you're successful with the request for funding. And I would move to approve the fee waiver agreement for the affordable housing for the Mountain View Flats development.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved by Shelley and seconded by, was that Paula that seconded? That was me. Okay. Jen, go ahead.
So I should let Hannah speak to this a little bit because she's really the guru of all of the fees and our spreadsheet that calculates them. But I think that the square footages that we just heard are slightly different from what we had calculated those fees on. So I'm hoping that Carl can find some maybe way to address that, maybe just that it's whatever is calculated for those units that are deed restricted. And maybe there's a way to add that.
Yeah, we can tweak that a little bit.
It also may be that what I was saying for the 700 and the 774 are net square feet versus gross square feet. And so there is a discrepancy on that. Storage, common walls, and whatnot.
Do I need to amend my motion at all, Carl?
I don't think so, Shelley. I think I'll just probably tweak the contract a little bit to say actual fee waivers will be calculated off building permit sets at time of project approval.
All right, thank you.
All right, we have a motion by Shelley, a seconded by Paul. I'll just add real quick, I really appreciate that this is mixed use, mixed income, not mixed use, mixed income, that it's not just a big block of 30% AMI, that we definitely mix up some free market and some different levels of AMI. I think that's a really cool feature. So thank you for that. That's a neat thing. So let's acting city clerk Steve Boyd, let's call a roll on this.
Councilor Stepp. You're muted. Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Hershey.
Yes.
Councilor Wisso.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Of course.
Councilor Willman.
I don't know if Charlie's having a connection issue, but I don't see.
No, he's recused himself, remember?
That's right.
Right. All right, thank you.
My apologies, he recused. Mayor Godis.
Certainly.
Mayor Pro Tem Kopp.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right.
Thank you very much for your time.
This is a cool project. Happy to have it in our community.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right. Next item. It is 8:02. Typically, we take a break about 8 o'clock, but we only have 2 more items. Anybody just want to power through? Okay. I'm seeing some power through signs. Okay. Item number.
Someone tell Charlie to come back.
No.
Should we forget? Oh, there he is. No, there he is. He's good. Okay.
All right. Item number 15 is resolution 2021-2 DOLA grant application for comprehensive plan. Ms. Hooten.
Good evening, Mayor, members of Council. I'm here to present this request for us to pursue a grant with DOLA. And generally, you would see this maybe in your consent agenda, but wanted to go through kind of the ask in particular. So we've talked a little bit about a comprehensive plan, and this request that we're asking for you to do tonight is $100,000 of DOLA with a match of $100,000. And so we had in the budget 65. I think that there are in the community development budget, there are some other funds that can be shifted over. We thought that that we needed to get to that $200,000 level to have that comprehensive be the document that we're looking for in the public process that we're looking for. And so with that, I'm just asking for permission to seek this grant, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
I'll jump in. I think this is great. We get a comprehensive plan. It should be updated every 10 years. It was last updated in 2011. So by the time this probably hits the pavement or comes off the presses, it'll be 2012 or it'll be 2022. So we'll actually be a little bit behind the 8 ball. And we can do as much outreach as possible. We can do things, and I think they're a great idea, by the way, of including a little questionnaire and on the brochures, certificates for the landfill or other things. But a comprehensive plan is just that, comprehensive. And so I think, trying to get a good view of where this community is at. We're a very different community than 2011. So I think it's really important that we get a good idea of what folks want. And so I'm very supportive of going for any grants that we can get for this and getting a really robust, comprehensive plan. And if 200,000 is what it takes, then I'm for that. Councilor Davis.
I'll second that motion.
All right. You know how much Councilor Davis loves plans. Ms. Wusso. Councilor Wusso.
I liked Steve Davis's comment. Ultimately, I want to also completely support this. I think that the comp plan that we have there, the concept behind a comp plan is it's a governing document or recommending document, whatever it is in that case, but ultimately it gives us guidance and direction. And the one that we currently have is not representative of the community that we live in. So much has changed since we did it. So I agree, a more robust comp plan is definitely appropriate, and whatever we need to do, the means to get there. And yes, I know it's another study, but ultimately I think this one is really beneficial for us all.
All right. Did we have a motion? Did I do a motion and did Steve second it? Okay.
Yeah.
Further conversation on a robust process and going for this grant. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I just want to say that, I'm in opposition often to plans, but those are plans that are often put on the shelf and just collect dust. And this is a plan that is way past due and greatly needed. And it's one that is referred to constantly by not only P&Z, but by council for all the projects that we get put on our plate. So I support it.
Okay. Let's call the question. Let's make this simple. Well, you know what? This is a comp plan. Anybody in attendance like to comment on this publicly? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Sorry, we already took the motion. I should have done that prior. Anybody opposed to this? Seeing absolutely none, I'm going to. Oops, sorry. I didn't. Sorry, Charlie. I didn't know if you spoke about, or did you want to speak on this? No. Okay. I think motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you, Jen. Really excited for what that holds. Last item is item 16, resolution 2021-3, adopting recreation economy for rural communities, community action plan. Promoting Mr. Nunez. Hi, Matt.
Good evening. Well, good evening, Mayor and members of council. I'm here to give a brief overview on the RERC Recreation Economy for Rural Communities Community Action Plan. This was a workshop that staff recently completed with a number of federal partners through a grant provided from the EPA in conjunction with the Forest Service and the Northern Border Regional Commission. So I have a presentation. I'll give a very brief overview of what we took away from the program, and I'm here to ask for council adoption of the plan. I will share my screen. Okay. I mentioned our federal partners. We also had a facilitator, Jason Espy, who did a wonderful job of leading us through the process, and a local steering community, which consisted of staff members, including myself, Jen, Deborah, Hannah, Brian, a number of others, as well as other partners within the community across the states and downtown business owners and residents. And I know that some of the members of council hopped in for a number of our calls, if not all of them, throughout the process. So some of you are already familiar with much of this, but want to provide an update for the rest. The process required some heavy lifting due to the circumstances which we found ourselves under this year. First of all, of course, the pandemic forced us to move to an online format, just like the rest of the world. So we were able to do that fairly seamlessly. It was the first time that RERC had done this process virtually, but we feel like it was successful overall. The workshop was scheduled to begin on August 10th, and it did start on August 10th, but that was also the date that the Grizzly Creek fire started. So there were some panic buttons or panic alarms being sounded. I know Hannah had to jump into emergency response mode along with a number of others, but we were able to get through the workshop. The changes did require a few post-workshop calls, which we adapted and went forward with, and we finished up the action plan, or I should say that our federal partners finished up the action plan for us last month, which we are now sharing tonight. And the plan itself, of course, can be found in your packet. It is pretty extensive. All this information is in there. We came out with 6 goals. We entered the process with a community survey evaluating what our assets and opportunities were here in Glenwood. And most communities who go through this process, I believe, typically come out with 2 or 3 action goals from the workshop. We came out with 6, and I won't read through every bullet point here, but you can see the different actions beneath each goal. So the 6 goals being safe and sustainable business operation, economic diversification. I'll give you a moment just to look over the slides if you'd like. Affordable housing, community for all, or one that is inclusive of all residents of Glenwood. Physical connections, and then authenticity, which also includes within it a component of sustainability. So I'm happy to share that a number of these projects are already underway. Of course, our winter outdoor dining, which was a part of the first goal, is mostly in place. The Housing Commission has reviewed some of their coding and has reached out to developers to learn more about their priorities for affordable housing, particularly as it pertains to Glenwood. And then Parks and Rec, both staff and the Parks and Rec Commission have done a great job so far of pursuing grants. They received $50,000 from GOCO Resilient Communities Program for Spanish language translations. And then tangentially related to this, received a grant which was matched from Smart Wool along with the state for a gear library to provide outdoor equipment to populations that do not have easy access to the outdoors. So I welcome Jen or Deborah or Brian to hop in and add any bits of information on any of that. But if there's nothing else, then I'm here to ask. Deborah, go ahead. You're muted. There we go.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we also recognize, I think we have some participants in the audience that were part of it. And then I wanted to recognize Paula and Steve were on the committee. And thank you so much for everything you did. And to remind council, we were one of 10 cities across the nation to have this honor in the, its first rollout, because I think because of Hanging Lake. So it is something we should be proud of. And thank you, Matt, for all of your work.
Well, thank you, Deborah. And I also would echo just all the thanks, not only to everybody on staff and on council, but to all the community members who participated as well. I think hearing their voice was really what made it valuable for me, and also building those connections. So would love to hear any questions that council has. I'd be happy to reference the document specifically. The document itself has a trove of resources, particularly at the end, linking to additional grant programs, funding opportunities, resources. One exciting one I learned about this, it just launched this morning from one of our federal partners, was the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable Rural Economic Development Toolkit. So we're using all of this moving forward. I know it will inform my work and has already informed the work of Parks and some other staff members. So I hope you'll consider adoption of it.
All right. Any questions or comments? Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just first of all to comment, job really well done. These reports sometimes are hard to read when they're this long, but this was a very informative report. I think it does move Glenwood in the direction I think we're going in, which is a recreation destination. And I thank you for all the hard work everybody did.
Okay. Matt, can you not share your screen just so I can, it's just hard for me to see all the other folks that are on council. Thanks, sorry. All right, any other comments? Thank you for that, Charlie. Any other comments or questions? Paula, go ahead.
Is this a good time to make a motion to approve this resolution, or do you want to wait till after the audience? And Deborah's raising her hand, so I'm like, maybe not.
I know I don't know if Jim wants to talk or if anybody else who participated in it would like to, but I know I specifically reached out to Jim and invited him. So,
well, then Jim should say something.
Jim, say something.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, perfectly. Perfect. Thank you. I was very pleased to be on this steering committee. We had a lot of challenges, as mentioned, but we really had key people from the community, many that I knew and many that I got to meet. And because of COVID, I can't wait to get to see them in person. And we also got to interact with key staff members. And so the collaboration of all these meetings, even with all the adversity, we came out with an amazing product. I view it as a mini strategic plan for Glenwood Springs. I've lived here for 22 years and I've always viewed it as a mountain town. It hasn't always recognized itself as that tourist destination with the rivers and the mountains and the trails. And this project and grant allowed us to really coalesce a lot of the elements and then challenges with affordable housing and other items. So it was a very, very fruitful process. You have a very good plan in front of you. It's huge, but let's keep looking at it and moving it forward. And thank you for considering adopting it.
Thank you so much, Jim. Appreciate your work on it.
You bet.
All right. Paula, would you care to continue your motion?
I would. I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution 2021-3, adopting our recreation economy for rural communities community action plan put together by Matt Nunez in its final form.
Not put together by me, but I appreciate the sentiment.
I do want to say, Matt, you put a lot of work into this, and I want to acknowledge that.
I will second the motion.
All right, moved by Paula, seconded by Shelley. Any further conversation? All right, let's keep it rolling. Anybody opposed to the motion? Hearing none, seeing none, motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jim. Thank you all who, Paula, thank you all who worked on this. You know, it's a heavy lift, so we really appreciate that and all that you do. Just real quick, wanted to say thank you Carl and Jim for being involved in the community, and thank you for allowing James Fosnot, who we saw earlier tonight. Like, we've had like a lot of representation from Carp New Hanlon, and it's always cool when employers, even one that is semi-employed by the city, allow their employees to participate like this. And I know Jim's a partner. Sorry, not employee. I'm fumbling here, but thank you, Jim. Thank you, James Fosnot. Thank you, Carl. Okay, we are done with, and of course, thank you, Mr. Nunez, as well. Last item actually is a report from City Administration. Deborah.
Hold on 1 second. That went quicker than I thought. I think I have to legally, officially tell you guys that there's going to be overnight work on the 27th Street Bridge. Yes, I always love it when they work overnight on the 27th Street Bridge. And I think that is all I have. I'm handing it over to Carl.
I don't have anything tonight. I am hopeful that we can have a conversation in the next month or so regarding kind of where we're going with RMI, which I think is going to be important. So I'll probably be trying to schedule that conversation with council members individually or in pairs over the next month or so.
Carl, can you tell me what the timing would be like for that?
In
the next month, but are you saying they've approached? I mean, what are you saying?
No, I'm just saying that we need to, it's a new year, a new administration. We need to be thinking about how we approach all of that. And so I just want to get some input from you guys in a more private setting. Obviously, I don't want to disclose anything here, but
no, I understand. I just was curious.
Nothing on the, there's nothing on the table. I just really just want to start getting some feedback from you guys. And like I said, we have a change in administration. Some of the things we were concerned about, executive orders that issued yesterday, eliminated. So there's some positive stuff going on, and we just need to get you updated on all of that.
Thank you, Carl.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order? All right. Thank you, everybody. This is world record time. I credit Tony for that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to give him any credit for that. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your time off. We will see you the first meeting of February, if not sooner. Have a good evening.